Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche is right now on Capitol Hill. He's expected to face questions about Donald Trump's politically toxic slush fund, which the Trump administration announced yesterday was/is dead for now. Many lawmakers, including Republicans, are expressing public worries that the fund could somehow be revived. After all, Trump is a man who considers politically toxic more of a challenge than a warning. As Congressman Jamie Raskin writes, quote, "We would be making a mistake if we treated this judicially compelled interruption as a final conclusion to this mad ripoff scheme. It is not close to the end of the story." Agreeing with Congressman Raskin, none other than Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio. Tarrio was convicted of seditious conspiracy for his role in January 6th. He told PBS News this, quote, "This isn't an abandonment. They simply state they're going to wait 2 weeks. I believe even if this fund is killed in courts or at a congressional level, the president will find a way. They can just settle the tort claims and lawsuits. That has no judicial review or congressional oversight, and it would mean a lot more money in compensation," end quote. I want to bring in senior investigative reporter Carol Leonnig. Also joining us, former Department of Justice pardon attorney Liz Oyer. She was fired by Donald Trump's Department of Justice after refusing to reinstate actor Mel Gibson's gun rights. Carol Leonnig, bring me the latest reporting you have about the whole settlement. The slush fund is just a part of it. The other part of it is, of course, promising that the IRS will never investigate Donald Trump or his kids or his businesses ever.
Right. That's right, Nicole. And you know, that promise, just to bring viewers up to speed, that promise of immunity was never really disclosed when this slush fund was created. This retrospective effort to protect Donald Trump and his family from any audits or civil or criminal liability for a tax record that investigators concluded was a long decade-running criminal conspiracy. And it's part of the reason that federal judges gathered together in a motion last week, which apparently was very persuasive to the judge overseeing this case, and said that they believed a fraud had been committed on the court because of the lack of disclosure about that immunity, that blanket immunity. You asked, Nicole, rightly, what do we know? What's the latest? What we know is that senators are beside themselves about whether or not this, as Senator Tillis called it, pork payout for punks, whether this is going to be revived, whether it has any chance of being sort of resuscitated in the future. You know, the Justice Department has concluded they're not going to fight right now over a judge's decision to stay moving forward with the slush fund because of the concerns about fraud here, because of the concerns about how this was structured. And but that doesn't mean the Department of Justice can't whip around and do something different in 2 weeks, as Enrique Tarrio says. A lot of Donald Trump supporters are telling us that Donald Trump is basically hurting the party. These are political supporters and allies and advisors, that he's hurting the party, hurting the Senate, hurting the midterms with this desire for this slush fund, and it has to be dead. Ding dong, the witch is dead, or else there is going to be a political cost for the entire party.
The problem with covering lying liars and the lies they tell, Liz Oyer, is that Todd Blanche, since we've been on the air, testified that they are not moving forward ever with the slush fund. But to all the reporting that exists and to Enrique Tarrio's interview with NPR, he's been promised money. Like, he's been promised that they'll settle the claims and pay them. And you describe this as, quote, your pick for the single most corrupt of Blanche's actions, the settlement of Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS. Explain.
Well, we're well past the point of take Todd Blanche's word for it. He really doesn't have any credibility at this point. And the way that this has played out really just illustrates that the whole thing was a sham to begin with. Donald Trump's lawsuit was frivolous. A court knew that it was frivolous. It was circling the drain on the verge of being dismissed when this settlement agreement was announced. The court is now rightly investigating whether that was a fraud on the court, whether that was deception by the Justice Department and by Donald Trump's personal attorneys, which Clearly it was. Now the Justice Department is trying to save face by walking away from this, and they're misrepresenting the circumstances of how that has happened. There was a tweet yesterday from the Justice Department's official account that was really stunning because it essentially said that a court has struck down the settlement fund. It said that a court has found that the Justice Department under no circumstances can move forward with this settlement fund. And they go on to say, while we disagree with the court, we're going to abide by the court's ruling. So that is them saying essentially, we're walking away from this because the court said that we had to, not because we made a huge political mistake. That's actually not true. The court put a 14-day pause on the enforcement of the settlement fund so that the parties could brief the question of whether it's legitimate and enforceable. No court has said that it's not valid. And the Justice Department is, trying to mischaracterize that in order to save face, which really just shows that we cannot trust anything that is coming out of Todd Blanche's mouth. What is to hold him to that position that this is not going to be enforced ever? There's no reason to just take his word for it and believe it. The same way that there's no reason to take his word for it and believe it that Glenn Maxwell is not going to get a pardon. He just has zero credibility, and we need to see something much more concrete than Todd Blanche saying this isn't happening before we can believe it.